Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video podcast on the moments that matter in the employee journey. On today's topic, breaking the mold, creating opportunities around people for a good reason. Quite an interesting topic, and we have a lot to be discussed. And the reason why we decided to push on this specific topic is simply with the aim to delve into the significance of mobility career development programs, reflecting on how these initiatives affect both personal growth and organizational dynamics. To be able to do this, we brought a special guest today. Zeib, thank you so very much for joining us. She works in a large organization in the financial industry, but I will let her, in just a second, have a discussion in regards to a quick introduction from her side. I wish to also thank our partner, but also the co-host of this video podcast, Lutu One. Zeib, thank you very much for joining this video podcast. If I may ask for a short introduction from your side to start this off.
Thank you for having me, Loic. Yeah, sure. I started out within technology services in early on in my career, and I would say I wasn't very intentional about how my career would progress. Then it was more about what things came by, and I just picked what was available to me. I got
Mhm.
very interested in portfolio project management, so I navigated that path within technology and financial services in India. And then I moved to the UAE, riding on the wave of digital transformation in banking, and I had the opportunity to deliver some really cool projects within. Some of them were first of its kind in the region. And then after that came the dream job, which is where I am right now at JPMorgan, where I was hired to lead a global delivery function, and I spent time building that function, operating it, and then I realized that there were certain skills that I wanted to build, and I wanted to be more strategic, and I wanted to hone those kind of skills under my belt, and I started having discussions about my next role, mobility, wanting to work in a different region. And with all of my mentors, I took a mobility and moved into the UK in the role that I'm now in the middle of a pandemic. So that's I think where I call my career being more intentional. So right from starting out, where going with the flow, to the point where you're intentional about what you want, where you want to go, what kind of roles you want to play, how do you want to create impact. So I would say, there's a whole shift in how I look at things now.
Thank you very much. And while we're at it, because it's great to have people of such a vast experience and background, I do want to give a quick shout out to Lois Packett. If it wasn't for the video podcast that we did with her, I wouldn't have had this
Of
great
course.
opportunity to also meet Zaib in the process. So thanks to her as well. First one is in regards to having an initial exploration. Thus, today's episode is called Breaking the Mold, Creating Opportunities Around People for a Good Reason. You stand as a remarkable testament to the power of maximizing one's potential within an environment tailored to highlight individual strengths. Could you provide our audience with a brief overview of this journey, of your journey?
Yeah, I think a lot of it has of recent times, it's been a lot about asking rather than just doing your best and waiting for things to happen. So a lot of it has been about being proactive, being intentional, working with mentors, leveraging the ecosystem that I have around me, reaching out to people. I think networking has played a big role as well in this whole
Mhm.
aspect. A lot of it is reaching out proactively. I do a lot of networking on LinkedIn as well. I reach out to people, and I've met some amazing leaders, amazing mentors, and I think I'm very curious about getting to know people, and learning about people's stories, and trying to see how somebody's journey can inspire me, and what people have done in their careers, and how that I can learn from things that other people have done. I think that's been a key driver. And I've There's a lot of investment in continuous learning as well that I've consciously done. There are a lot of people around me that have inspired me in terms of developing themselves continuously. So a lot of that has played a role in how I think I've just grown over the years, and there's still a lot to learn. There's still a whole world out there to explore. So it's all a journey, and it's all a process, and that's how I look at it.
I really love the honest and genuine approach. And since we are talking about networking, great point, which brings me to the second question. How has transitioning through various roles shaped your networking approach, and what do you perceive as the impact of such mobility on nurturing talent engagement and motivation?
Yeah. I know networking is a cliche, and a lot of people struggle with
Hmm.
networking and getting out of their zones, and a lot of people are shy. You don't know what to speak. So I think I've been on that journey as well. From a time where I just was in my own world. I just did my job, went home, versus reaching out to people very actively. I reach out to people within my organization who are doing interesting work and understand how did you land there, what happened, how can I reach there, or what can I take in my role from what you're doing. A lot of my a lot of it is just trying, just let me, especially when it is about on portals and portals like LinkedIn. It's about just putting yourself out there and reaching out to people, talking to them about something that resonates between you and them. And I do some networking kind of sessions with our early talent as well, so that people can build in that networking skill from the beginning. But I think it is, again, like I said earlier, it's very consciously asking for what I want, asking for
Hmm.
advice, or asking for comments, asking for suggestions, including people in that conversation. The other thing that I think I've done, which is a very drastic thing with networking, is I'm doing my MBA at London Business School, and it can't get better than that when you talk about networking. The alumni network, and pushing yourself out there,
Yeah.
meeting different people, meeting somebody who's like in the military versus meeting a scientist, and then talking about people in the different if different worlds than you are in, and trying to find what's common, trying to build connections. So it's again, it's a journey. It's you tend to get comfortable as you do more of it. And one thing that has helped me with networking also is I tend to be curious about the person in front of me rather than it being about me. So,
Hmm.
it just helps when the conversation is about them versus me. And, it tends to be more natural. So I think that curiosity, as cliche as it might sound, that has really shaped how I talk to people and how I really build connections.
So this continuous type of approach when it comes to gaining feedback, networking cliche. To a certain extent, I feel that there's still such a huge untapped potential from networking. So I wouldn't even say it's cliche. I think there's definitely more that can be pushed within, and I think more
Yeah.
people should have a similar approach to what you're stating. So
Yeah.
I completely agree with you on that one. Third question on this one, which touches base on skill development and mobility, which, as kind of discussed in the two previous points, is quite important as well for self-development. The question being, in reflecting on your varied experiences, how have these experiences enriched your skill sets, particularly in meeting new challenges? And what steps, according to you, can organization take to promote an environment conducive to continuous learning?
Yeah. I think there are a lot of skills that you learn on the way, especially when you take up mobility. I'd say that you are getting the benefit of moving to a different job without actually changing too much around you. So there's
Mhm.
a larger appetite for you to experiment, take risks, and say, hey, you know what, I don't know anything about this role, but I want to learn this skill and I want to grow on the job. Trust me, I have a track record. I've got a brand where I can deliver things. I can learn on the job, and I can be better at it as I go deeper. So you've got that trust and ecosystem within the organization that helps you actually become take major career shifts. So that's one thing that I think is a skill set that I've honed with, that helps me meet new challenges. The ecosystem around you helps you as well. The whole aspect of starting from scratch, making new beginnings, I think it points to the whole aspect of, again, continuous learning, where you're taking mobility, you're spending time learning something new, you're building those new neural networks. And I think there's also an element of, especially when you move around, if it's mobility within different countries and regions, and
Mhm.
it's also an aspect of becoming more culturally aware. So you become more wholesome in terms of how you deal with people around different geographies, how you learn to be more culturally sensitive, how you become more inclusive, just unconsciously become inclusive about how you work with people. And then there's huge scope of being better at collaborating across groups, collaborating across regions, bringing people together on a journey. I think those are largely the kind of influencing skills you need to build as you grow in your career. It also generally creates more, I think, confidence, resiliency within the workforce, because now You're really so adapt to making shifts and making changes. So it just develops you, I think, as an individual. And about your other question regarding what
Hmm.
organizations can do to promote continuous learning, I think first and foremost, I think it's important for us to hone in on individualization, understanding that every individual, every person, especially for leaders, is different. Understanding what motivates them, what are their goals, what are their strengths, and acknowledging those is step one. Um, I think also leaders need to be comfortable about the fact that people will move on. People do want to do something different. People change, they want to grow, and being comfortable to let go and support people in that journey of letting go and moving on and looking
I
at the
like that.
human side of what people, what motivates people. There's also an aspect of leaders becoming role models. A lot of the leaders around me are investing themselves in upgrading their skills and doing, a lot of learning themselves. So looking at that inspires me. Like I've got a lot of people in my network who are learning AI, ML, who are doing business trainings or who are doing a lot of technology upgrades to their portfolios. So that's inspiring as well. And lastly, I'll say continuous learning isn't really about doing a course or a training. I think
Hmm.
as within organizations or as leaders, we play a role in helping somebody who needs to learn, who wants to learn a particular skill, meet somebody who has that skill. So it's a kind of matchmaking, and I think that it can't get easier than that. It's a simple matchmaking process to an extent. You don't have to have a huge budget. You don't have to have a huge learning program. It can start as simply and as organically as that.
I love the term matchmaking. Yeah, it's a pretty good one. So, because we're still good on time, and I just want to make sure the audience kind of understood it. So, the key points you would say when it comes to what organization can take. You were mentioning the first one, being able the skill set, but also being able to understand the value, well, understand and respect the exit of a person. And I'll let you finish the phrase in regards to the two other points you mentioned that are key priorities as well for an organization.
With respect to learning.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, I I think the organization, I would say the pace at which we're changing, right? And it's again a
Hmm.
cliche, right? Which we're seeing drastic change in the way the skills of the future, the roles that exist today probably won't exist, in the 5 years of
Yep,
time. And what existed
definitely.
5 years ago is completely different today. So leaders or I think individuals who can really be responsive to this kind of change and be agile in terms of how you scale up and down as the industry changes, as the demand changes. I think building that kind of a workforce is going to be a competitive advantage for companies. So it's in the interest of the companies as well to prioritize continuous learning to foster that environment. And also it plays a big role about you asked about engagement and motivation of talent earlier. I think when somebody is invested in you, when somebody is really cares about where you want to go, and somebody is having discussions with you about hey, what's next. I remember being into a job 3 months into the job, and my manager asked me, "So what's next? Do you want to? What do you want to do next? Where do you want to go next?" And I was really taken aback because I really believe that they were invested. There was an instance in which one of my mentors asked me, "What is your ideal job description?" And I was like, "It doesn't. Why does it matter? Because I just need to pick up the jobs that are available to me or the kind of job descriptions we have today." And he was like, "No, you can make it what you want it to be. The roles that exist today may not be there tomorrow, and you're preparing yourself for a future, and you always need to have that ideal job in mind." So there's a lot of that kind of fostering as well, that organizations can do, leaders can do in how they approach their teams and how they develop their people.
Perfect. And I feel like you've already answered the fourth question, but if you'd like to add anything particular, just one last few notes in regards to that, because the last question was focused on enhancing internal communication collaboration, but you've mentioned it very clearly with fostering it and all the other aspects in regards to it. But if you'd like to add one last note onto that, feel free.
Yeah, I think I've seen a lot of people do a good job at communicating positive stories around mobility, about
Mhm.
around how people have grown in their careers. Um, s- I've seen people who have made drastic career shifts, and seeing the support that they've got, I think encourages other people. I think organizations need to play an important role there with communicating what's transparently around success stories, how they're investing in people, what they believe truly, and it just needs to be an authentic way of communicating. There's also, leadership has a role to play in terms of um, how they're developing their next level talent, where they're focusing on, the pipeline they're building. So I guess putting up, the right picture, the true picture, fostering it, creating an environment where you care about the individual. I think that those are some of the cultural aspects of an organization, of leadership, that really play a big role in, you know building more collaboration, building more individuals who are, I would say, wholesome. And I believe personally that people who've done different roles, who've, had the opportunity of mobility, who've seen different sides of the world, have a truly diverse experience, and then they can talk to experiences on both sides of the table. Someone who's been, say, on the business side, on the service side, can talk about aspects related to both, and seeing both sides of the world. And in general, when you've got employees that are resilient, that are confident from playing different roles within the organization, that are continuously invested in learning and developing themselves, and see different aspects of the organization, I think you just generate natural leaders out of the organization who really understand how the organization works, understand the nuances. So it's in the interest of both, individual getting all kinds of experiences, developing their own skills, being able to experiment, and the organization actually naturally having that pipeline of leaders who can play a role in shaping the future of the organization.
I could not agree more. And quite frankly, I think you have yourself a personality that's very wholesome. And it's fantastic to be able to dive into such a complex topic to a certain extent, right? Not everyone would have a clear understanding of it, but the way you've expressed it, the way you shared your experience on it, has really given, at least I hope to our audience, has given a way of understanding and a very deconstructed human type of approach to it. And that's why I want to finish it off, the human approach to it, which I feel has been very richly mentioned in today's video podcast. So Zaib, thank you very much for joining us on this video podcast. Thank you for sharing your experience as well. A big thank you
Thank
to
you.
our partner, Lutawan, as well, and of course to our audience. Stay tuned for future video podcasts and have a great rest of your day. Thank you very much. Take care.
Thank you,
Ciao.
Loic.